Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm not really sure what I want to title this video just yet. We're going to kind of just work through it together as I ramble off my idea. But basically the topic for today's video is all about my shortcomings, how I have failed myself as a romance reader. Now, obviously, if you're watching this, then hopefully you can relate. But as bookworms, we have endless TBRs. We have the best intentions of, reading a certain amount of books or getting really excited about a book and adding it to our TBR. But every once in a while, or more often than not, in my case, I will be very excited for a book. I will rush out and either buy it or one-click add it to my cart, only for it to finally arrive and basically collect dust on my shelf. Now, this set of books that I want to talk to you all about, or admit defeat on, basically, is a stack of romance books that I was not only super excited to read, I one-clicked, bought them, received them in the mail, hyped them up. Pretty sure I posted the majority of them on my Bookstagram, and I read at least a chapter of every single one of these books. Some of them I read over 100 pages, but my interest in them just have kind of waned, and so I want to discuss with you guys which books those are. Again, I don't really know where I'm going with this. Maybe this is just like my dirty confessional, so that hopefully if you can relate, you can maybe drop in the comments some books that you too have abandoned. But I guess my goal for this is to, one, show you that you're not alone, and two, maybe kind of like reinvigorate my excitement about it so that hopefully I can add them to my TBR for 2021 and actually finish reading the book. So with that said, let's dive into the books that I started and failed to finish. Okay, so first up we have Sarah MacLean's Brazen and the Beast. Now, I specifically added this book to my cart, or picked it up rather, after I finished reading The Beast of Beswick, which is my all-time favorite historical romance novel, and I got on this huge bender when it came to Beauty and the Beast remakes or retellings, and so I did an entire video, which I will link right now, talking about Beauty and the Beast retellings, and this, I believe, may have been on the list, probably. And so again, I got super excited. I read I think I made it to page 17, and then I kind of just like put it down and never picked it back up again. So will I read this in 2021? I don't know. Before I turned on the camera and I started filming this, I kind of read through all of these books again to see if it may have actually been something that I wanted to pick up now and try and finish before the year ended. But I'm not really in like a fantasy story fairy tale remake mood right now, so maybe we'll have to shelve this until 2021. Okay, so next we have Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. This book was actually sent to me, which I'm super grateful to the publishing house for sending me this copy, and I was excited to read it because it does have everything that I would imagine that I would want in a romance novel, which is to say like cutesy banter with contemporary romance plus some HGTV sprinkled in. Again, I know I posted this to my Bookstagram and I probably used that exact kind of phrasing when it came to the plot line. Again, started it and never even finished it. I think this one, let me see, I made it to page, okay, so page 14, and you can see chapter 2 begins on page 17, so I barely scratched the surface with this. This one I know I gave into the FOMO hype, but again, not too FOMO, because I wanted to read this because it sounds like something that I would like, but at the same time I was personally pressured into getting it because I saw all of my bookish friends reading this and loving it, and I knew that if I read it, I too would love it. I just never read it. So if any of you watching are my bookish friends and you've read this, pressure me to read this because your girl has yet to pick it up again. Again, this is like a romance meets HGTV. This is actually about a woman who is on a yep, like an HGTV type of flipping competition show, and she's actually going up against her brother. And so one of the handymen, or maybe like her partner, ends up being this guy that they don't really hit it off, but she wants to win against her brother, and blah blah blah, sparks fly. I'm gonna just go ahead and slide it down here. Okay, so next up, oh, I'm so ashamed about this one. If any of you girls are watching, I'm sorry ahead of time. But we have Lisa Kleypas' Mine Till Midnight, which was actually part of the historical romance readathon that my friends hosted a few months back. Lacey, Jessica, Lisa, I'm sorry, I failed you. I got quite a bit into this story. I know my bookmark here only says page 56, but I actually picked it up and listened to a lot of it on audiobook, but I just never ended up finishing. I think because I was trying to also film at the same time and then do errands. I actually filmed a weekend vlog for the historical romance readathon. I never finished. I'm sorry. And as much as I wanted to finish this book, I just never got around to it. So I've heard great things about Lisa Kleypas, and as a historical romance newbie, I know that she is a fantastic historical romance author, especially for historical romance newbies. And I just never followed through. So I'm sorry. I am going to make it a goal for 2021 to read one of her books. Maybe it will be this one. I'm hoping it will be, but I also don't want to lie to myself, because this is this part of her? I don't remember which part of the series this is. But I know it's part of one of her infamous series, and so I want to be able to continue the rest of it, but I gotta finish the first book first. So you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Next up, we have Spoiler Alert, and I am making it a goal of mine to read this for next year, simply because the premise sounds so adorable and so different. I also received this from a publisher a few months back, and I love the idea about the story, and I think I actually brought it with me while I was on vacation, started reading it, and then I just never finished. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually was reading this book when I was filming my Read With Me on the Beach kind of like ASMR video. Again, I will link that. But after I basically came home from vacation, I just put this one away as I was cleaning out my suitcase, which is such a tragedy. So this one is a romance that has a lot of like nerddom, fanfic, kind of culture involved in it, which again is something that seems very interesting, and I've always been interested in stuff like that. One of my favorite books of all time is called Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell and deals with that whole subject matter. But this one is about basically a handsome star of this fictional TV show who falls for one of his fans who writes fanfic about the show. She happens to be a huge geek, but also at the same time plus size, which comes into the storyline with the whole like body rep and body positivity and just like owning who you are. Again, super cute. Love the cover. I definitely posted this on Bookstagram, and I specifically took this with me on vacation because I knew that it would look good visually and kind of like fit into my whole beach read vibe. Side note, I went on vacation to the beach. But yeah, once I came back home, back to reality, this just got shelved away with the rest of my unread books as she hangs her head in shame. Next, we have You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria, and this was one of those impulse buys, definitely swayed by Bookstagram, because I specifically remember watching Francesca's Instagram stories at Under the Covers book blog, and she had an interview with the author who was talking about this book, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds right up my alley, sounds super interesting, and I went out and bought it like that day. And I was super excited to read it, and I actually cracked it open and started reading a few pages. I was still on the clock at work, but I started reading a few pages over my lunch break, and I'm like, oh my god, this sounds super cute. I'm so excited to really dive into this. What happened after that? I have no idea. But next thing you know, it ended up on my shelf, and sadly, I had even forgotten about this book until I went to collect other books for this video, and I spotted it on the shelf, and I'm like, oh shit, well, that definitely belongs in this pile because I did not at all finish it. And I didn't even, so this is misleading. I have a bookmark on page 262, and I got nowhere near 262 pages into it. So it's actually gotten to the point to where I'm pretty sure whenever I pick up any of these books, I'm gonna have to start from the first page because I'm not nearly far enough into any of these to be able to just kind of like pick it back up. Which, side note, if you pick a book back up and it's been a while, are you able to just like dive right in where you left off, or do you start from the beginning? I really want to know, just because I have a horrible memory, and oftentimes I am listening to a book and reading a book at the same time. 2 is my max. So if I find like a third book in the mix and I try and pick it back up, I have no idea what happened, and I usually have to start it all over, which is such a shame if I'm kind of far into it, because it's almost as if those first few pages that I originally read was a waste of time. So, side note, God, I love this cover. It's so beautiful, right? I'm so ashamed. Okay, that's cool. We're making changes to our lives. Last book. This, if you know me, this will come as zero surprise. It's this freaking behemoth that will haunt me forever until I finish reading it. And I'm talking about House of Earth and Blood, Sarah J. Maas's latest book, Crescent City, book number 1. I don't know what it is about this book that I just cannot, for the love of God, get through. It has nothing to do with the size, though it is quite a chunkster, but you know, large books don't intimidate me. I think it has to do with maybe the world building. I actually do not read a lot of fantasy, and so any kind of extreme world building that is so different than our everyday world it takes a while for me to kind of get into. And this one, as a newbie fantasy or inexperienced fantasy reader, is a bit heavy to really get into, just in terms of like the type of characters you have in, angels and wolves and whatever. And then on top of that, Sarah J. Maas has thrown in some language or some words that I am also not familiar with that she has made up. Obviously, you're supposed to understand what they are given the context, but between both the new character types, the different world, and the new language, it's a lot for my brain to take. So what's really funny about this, I also was hyped to read this. BookTube, it's your fault. Bookstagram, it's your fault. I went out and got it, posted my pic, but I was actually reading it at the time, and I read this book on two, count them, 2 different like reading sprints that I did with some of my friends online, and I think they were each maybe an hour. So I at least dedicated a minimum of 2 hours to this book, and only made it to, hold on, here we go. Only made it to page 77. And you know what's really messed up is that the third time I tried to pick this book back up, I couldn't remember anything, and so I started over. And I still didn't get any further. And it's so funny because Deja from Deja's Book World, she's like, girl, you have to at least get to the 100th page because that's when the things really start picking up. And I'm like, okay, cool. I ended up surpassing the last number of pages that I read to get even further. I'm only like 25 pages away from the 100th page when the action really starts happening. And I will never know what it is because I can't get to it. Oh my gosh, if you guys have read this book, let's chat, because I don't know what I need. Cliff notes, motivation, spoilers. I want to read this book, but it ain't happening right now. So maybe this too will be a goal for 2021. It seems like such a waste to have this sitting on my shelf and not having read it, because she is such a popular author and this book has received a lot of high praise. But yeah, as of right now, it's tabbed up with 3 different attempts of me trying to read it. Okay, So that's my kind of handful of books. I'm sure there are more books. I didn't even look at my Kindle to see like my ebook list. I just went through my shelves and kind of pulled out physical books that I knew I had been neglecting the last few months. But as I mentioned before, let me know if you also have this kind of like list of shame of books that you have started and you ended up putting back down, books that you were excited to read, but you know, I don't even want to say the excitement fizzled out, because again, when I look at these books and I kind of read the synopsis, I get excited and I want to read it, but at the same time, like, I don't really know if I have the mental capacity right now to do that, which is why I figured I would make it like a 2021 goal. You know, 2020 is all about surviving. The last thing I need to do is add some other pressure on my plate. I'm just trying to make it to the end of the year. So let's revisit this next year. So anyway, if you're still here, thank you for sticking around. If you did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like it. And I will talk to you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye.